Leila Al-Fahad had everything: wealth, beauty, and a husband every woman envied. But when she uncovered Omar's secret affair with their young Filipina maid, Marisol, her perfect Dubai life turned into a ticking time bomb. In a city built on gold and lies, love turned toxic, loyalty shattered, and one deadly secret dinner left the whole world wondering. How far can betrayal push a woman before she breaks? The Crime Scene presents a new page of crime, a new mystery, a new shock case. Leila Mansour was the kind of woman who turned heads wherever she went. With her sleek black hair, designer heels, and a smile that screamed confidence, she looked like she had it all. Living in one of Dubai's most luxurious gated communities, she spent her days between spa appointments, high-end lunches, and charity galas. Her husband, Omar Mansour, was a wealthy real estate developer, handsome, charming, and always dressed like a man straight out of a magazine. Together, they were the perfect picture of success, the kind of couple people envied but never really knew. Behind the walls of their modern white villa, things weren't as picture-perfect as they seemed. Omar had grown distant, his warmth fading into silence. He worked late hours, often coming home after midnight, smelling of expensive perfume that wasn't Leila's. She'd try to ignore it, convincing herself it was just stress, just business, just Dubai life. But that quiet ache in her chest wouldn't go away. Then came Marisol Santos, a young Filipina maid recommended by a friend. Sweet, soft-spoken, and always smiling, she was the kind of girl who seemed harmless. Leila hired her to help with daily chores, never imagining she was inviting chaos into her life. Marisol worked efficiently, never complained, and quickly became a familiar face around the house. At first, Leila didn't notice the small things: Omar offering to drop Marisol off after errands, or the way his voice softened when he spoke to her. But soon, something shifted. The energy in the house felt strange, like the air had changed. Marisol's laughter started echoing in places it didn't belong, and Omar's eyes followed her a little too long. Leila didn't know it yet, but her dream life was about to turn into a nightmare she'd never wake up from. Leila started noticing things that didn't sit right. A lipstick she never owned rolling out from under the car seat. A gold bracelet that wasn't hers tucked behind a bathroom towel. At first, she brushed it off. Maybe the driver's wife, maybe Marisol's accident. But deep down, her gut screamed something uglier. The laughter between Omar and Marisol grew louder, slipping through the cracks of closed doors and quiet evenings. The maid who once bowed her head now walked with a little more confidence, wearing perfume too expensive for her paycheck. Omar, once affectionate and attentive, now scrolled through his phone at dinner, barely looking up. His eyes had lost that warmth Leila used to melt for. She tried to pull him back, cooking his favorite meals, wearing that red dress he once loved, but it was like throwing pebbles into the ocean. He was already somewhere else, somewhere forbidden. The whispers from the neighbors didn't help. One of Leila's friends hinted she'd seen Omar in a cafe with someone who didn't look like his wife. The words hit her like a slap. Still, she didn't want to believe it. Not her husband. Not the man who once promised her forever under the Dubai skyline. Then one night, she came home early from a charity event. The house was quiet, lights dimmed, except for faint music playing upstairs. She followed the sound, her heels clicking against the marble floor, heart racing in her chest. When she reached the bedroom door, it was slightly open. What she saw inside made her world collapse. Omar wasn't alone, and the truth was right there in front of her, wrapped in betrayal and silk sheets. That moment changed everything. Whatever innocence was left in Leila's heart died right there, replaced by something darker, something dangerous. Leila stood frozen at the doorway, her mind struggling to catch up with what her eyes were seeing. The man she built her world around, the one she trusted more than anyone, was tangled up with their maid, the same girl who'd called her madam, with lowered eyes and soft smiles. The scene burned into her memory, every detail sharper than glass. For a moment, she couldn't breathe. It wasn't just betrayal. It was humiliation, like the walls of her perfect life had crumbled right on top of her. She didn't scream. She didn't make a sound. She just turned and walked out, her heels clicking against the marble like echoes of her broken pride. Outside, the desert wind hit her face, cold and sharp, but she barely felt it. Her mind spun in loops. How long it had been going on, how everyone probably knew but her. The more she thought about it, the more her heartbreak twisted into something darker. Days passed, but the anger didn't fade. Omar acted like nothing had happened, like his lies could just blend into the everyday routine. Marisol carried on quietly, pretending not to notice the tension suffocating the house. But Leila saw everything. The quick glances, the subtle touches, the secret smiles they thought she missed. Each night, as she lay awake staring at the ceiling, her thoughts grew colder. Love had turned to hate, and hate was starting to turn into a plan. She wasn't the kind of woman to be made a fool of. Not in a city like Dubai, not in her own home. What Omar didn't realize was that the wife he betrayed wasn't broken. She was calculating. And once Leila made up her mind, there was no going back. Something inside her had snapped, and revenge was already taking shape. Leila started playing her role like nothing had changed. Her face was calm, her words sweet, her tone careful. She smiled at Omar like the perfect wife she used to be, and she even treated Marisol with kindness that felt almost real. But behind every look and every gentle nod was a quiet rage that pulsed beneath her skin. She was done crying. Now, she was planning. And no one, not even her husband, could see it coming. She began noticing patterns. When Omar came home, when Marisol cleaned, how long the driver stayed out on errands. Every routine detail became part of a bigger puzzle she was piecing together. The more she observed, the more control she gained. Leila wasn't impulsive. She was methodical. Every move she made was calm and deliberate. She wanted Omar and Marisol to feel safe, to believe the storm had passed. At night, when the house was silent, she scrolled through her phone, searching, reading, learning. Crime stories, news about domestic betrayals, methods of getting even without leaving a trace. Her obsession grew, not with killing, but with justice, her version of it. She told herself it wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about power, about making sure they never forgot what they did. Then came the night when she noticed the jewelry box missing from her dresser. It wasn't about the gold, it was about the insult. That small act flipped a switch inside her. It confirmed what she already knew. Neither Omar nor Marisol had any respect left for her. They saw her as weak, predictable, harmless. Leila smiled at her reflection in the mirror, a strange calm settling over her. Weak? No. She was finally awake. And what she planned next would change everything, forever. The air in the mansion grew heavier with every passing day. Leila's silence had turned into something unsettling. Too calm, too composed. Omar barely noticed the shift. He was too lost in his double life, thinking he could balance luxury, lust, and lies without consequence. Marisol, on the other hand, felt the tension in her gut every time Leila's eyes lingered on her a little too long. There was no shouting, no confrontation, but the atmosphere felt like a storm waiting to break. Leila began setting her plan in motion. She started with small gestures, wine at dinner, compliments, little moments of affection that made Omar think she was trying to mend things. He believed her. That was his first mistake. The house staff whispered that Madam was back to normal, but there was nothing normal about the stillness inside her heart. Every kind smile she gave hid something dangerous underneath. One weekend, Omar mentioned taking Marisol along on a short trip to Abu Dhabi for work. Leila only nodded, masking the explosion brewing inside her. That night, she went to the rooftop, standing under the Dubai skyline, letting the city's glow reflect in her tearless eyes. She wasn't jealous anymore. She was preparing for the end. The next morning, she invited both Omar and Marisol for dinner, saying she wanted to celebrate their anniversary early. The gesture was innocent enough to disarm them. She cooked herself, for the first time in months, serving their favorite dishes with care and a calm smile. The table looked perfect, the aroma comforting. But under the elegance, something darker was brewing. Every move was precise. Every ingredient was intentional. And when Omar lifted his glass to toast, Leila finally felt peace, cold, quiet, and absolute. The plan was no longer a thought. It was happening. The night unfolded like a movie. Soft music, candlelight, and the faint sound of laughter echoing through the house. To anyone looking in, it was the perfect dinner. Leila moved gracefully, pouring drinks and serving food, her every motion deliberate. Omar, dressed in his favorite tailored shirt, looked relaxed for the first time in weeks. Marisol sat beside him, nervous but smiling, unaware that she was dining on borrowed time. Leila watched them closely, her mind replaying every moment that brought her here, the betrayal, the lies, the stolen peace. The bitterness that once consumed her had transformed into something colder, more calculated. She didn't want an argument or an explanation anymore. She wanted an ending. As they ate, the poison worked quietly, blending with the flavor of fine wine. Omar's laughter began to fade first, replaced by confusion. Marisol followed soon after, her hands trembling as she tried to stand. Panic filled the air, but Leila stayed perfectly still, her expression unreadable. She had imagined this moment so many times, and now that it was real, it didn't feel like victory. It felt like justice wrapped in silence. The music played on as chaos unfolded in front of her. Omar's eyes met hers one last time, not in anger, but disbelief. Marisol collapsed seconds later, her body motionless on the cold marble floor. The flickering candles reflected in Leila's eyes, casting shadows that danced across her face. She didn't cry, she didn't scream, she simply exhaled, as if releasing years of suffocating pain. When it was over, she poured herself a final glass of wine and looked out toward the skyline. Dubai glimmered in the distance, untouched, unaware. Somewhere deep inside, a voice whispered that this wasn't revenge, it was closure. But even she knew that kind of peace never lasts forever. By morning, the mansion was silent. The once bustling home that had echoed with laughter and lies was now filled with an eerie stillness. The bodies were gone before sunrise, carefully handled, neatly arranged, almost ritualistic. Leila moved through the house like a ghost, her silk robe trailing behind her as if nothing had happened. There was no panic, no regret, just an unsettling calm. She cleaned every surface, every glass, leaving behind no trace except for the faint scent of jasmine and wine. When the police arrived 2 days later, it was because Omar's business partner had reported him missing. They found the house immaculate, the dining table set as if awaiting guests, and Leila sitting in the garden, sipping tea. She greeted them politely, her tone measured, her eyes hollow. The officers couldn't tell if she was numb or dangerous, but they knew something wasn't right. The investigation began quietly, but whispers soon spread through Dubai's elite circles, rumors of scandal, jealousy, and betrayal cloaked in luxury. For weeks, Leila played her role perfectly. Calm, composed, cooperative. But one small mistake, a camera in the hallway she'd forgotten about, unraveled her illusion. The footage showed fragments of that night. Movement, shadows, a flicker of something too deliberate to be innocent. She was arrested without resistance, almost as if she had expected it all along. In the courtroom, she remained expressionless, her beauty almost haunting against the cold backdrop of justice. The jury saw a murderer, but she saw herself as something else. A woman pushed past her breaking point in a world where appearances mattered more than truth. When the verdict came, Leila didn't flinch. As they led her away, she whispered under her breath, a quiet confession meant for no one but herself. Lies kill slower than poison. And for the first time, she smiled.